Hello, Strength Matters, and welcome to Whiteboard Wednesdays. This is our opportunity to offer as much as we can in terms of training principles and training concepts to help you achieve the best version of yourself. Today's topic, we're going to cover endurance. This is one of the 10 components of athleticism, and it's something that both Phil and I have a lot of practical experience with. Both athletically and in terms of who we've helped with other clients and customers. So in terms of endurance, what is it? The question of the day. Endurance is the capacity to sustain an activity for a long duration. And this can show up in so many ways, but the quickest kind of human example is endurance is the opportunity or the ability to walk through the mountains for 10, 15, 20 miles, let's say hiking. Endurance in our modern world is now epitomized in the marathon, and even in the last 15 years or so we have ultra marathons, we have 50Ks, we have 50 milers, we have multi-day races. So in the running world, endurance has really become quite a thing. In the triathlon world, it's the Ironman that epitomizes it. But in terms of human activity and function, endurance can encompass any activity in the world, including some of the basic movement patterns, such as squatting. So the question is not, can you get down into a deep squat? The question is, can you stay down there and have a conversation? That takes endurance. Phil, I'll just put the next question over to you. Why do we need it?
Well, I think you pretty much covered the first two in that opening statement. Brilliant. So yeah, why do we need it? I think just as a species, the human being is naturally defaults to endurance. We're brilliant at endurance. You know, just going back to what we're supposed to do as humans, if you look at our evolution over the last few thousand years, we're supposed to walk all day, every day, hunting and gathering, and when we need to, we're supposed to be able to explode into a sprint to save our own lives or to catch our food or whatever. So I think because endurance is kind of built into our DNA and our genetic code, that's what people naturally default to. So you've got your office worker, your modern day office worker. If somebody says, oh, what do you feel like doing as a fitness challenge? Nobody thinks, oh, I really want to increase or decrease my 50-meter sprint time, or I want to get as strong as possible to lift as much as I can up off the floor, because they just don't understand those benefits. They've never trained it. But what they have done is lots of walking, they've probably done a little bit of jogging, so they're like, oh, I know, I'll sign up for a half marathon or a 10K or whatever. And so I don't think we really need to go into the advantages of endurance. I think just because everybody defaults to endurance, but it's one of the 10 components. Just because it is so important. If endurance wasn't there, then it kind of has to be part of the 10 components. It's not something that we should focus on because it's a strength to so many people. It's what people know and it's what they default to without being pushed by people like me.
Well, I'll share there are people who don't seem to have the endurance for, let's say, running, or very specific activities. And then the question is, well, have they developed a skill to do that activity well? Because so often when you teach someone better movement mechanics for that particular activity, their endurance goes way up. So for the people that resist it, that maybe don't like it, then you could dive a little deeper if you have the skill set to say, well, what can we address? Like, what skills can we play with to make that much more accessible to them? And for those who are already putting the time in and take this seriously as a sport or an athletic development, there's also the risk factor, which is if you just keep pushing and pushing and pushing, things are going to break down. So there is, in the running world, a pretty smart equation of 10% per week. So do the math however you want, But the concept is, yeah, okay, I can run 2 miles, but next week I shouldn't push myself to run 4 miles. That's risk. But if week by week I slowly add that 10% of what I'm capable of, the body can figure out a lot of things without overthinking it. So in terms of how much do humans need, and is there a base level, it comes back to human function and locomotion and walking and climbing stairs and being able to go up hills. We can define that as enough strength for that activity, but it comes down to our day-to-day lives. Can we walk through the mall without being out of breath? Well, not all of us can. Can we join a run group and go at our own pace, but still achieve that experience if we're motivated for the 1 mile or 2 mile? I mean, these are the more basic levels of what endurance is, but really our bodies should be capable of doing these, even if we need to get more training to do it.
Yeah. So I think Scott pretty much covered everything he said. So I'll just leave it with one last example of what happens if and when you only focus on endurance, which is the case with so many people that I've certainly met in my time as a personal trainer. Somebody once came to me with the goal of, in 9 months' time, he's already at a sub 3 hour marathon.
Nice.
2 hours 50 something was his goal, and he wanted to get a sub 2:45. So I'm like, wow, immediately I'm thinking, I'm going to have to go running with this guy. But what became really obvious after doing an assessment and just the initial interview, let alone going out and actually training with him, was all he's ever done is gone out and do long, slow duration endurance training and nothing else. He couldn't move. His mobility sucked. He wasn't strong. He wasn't good at moving around on the ground, crawling. He certainly wasn't powerful, wasn't strong. So basically, most of his programming was moving around on the floor. It took a lot of persuading to get him to do this. Moving around on the floor. We'd go out and we would do 400 meters. His sprint would be going from slow, well, it's not slow if you can do a sub 3 hour marathon, but from that pace to just a little bit faster for a couple of minutes, and then he'd drop down. We would go out and do 100% bursts for 30 seconds, 3 to 5 minutes recovery. 100% burst, 30 seconds, 3 to 5. We'd work on his flexibility, his mobility, and 6 months he was ready to do it. He had another 3 months of training after that, and he absolutely smashed his target. He got 2:42, I think. It was early 2:40s. But yeah, if you're an endurance athlete, forget about endurance. Focus on mobility, strength, power, speed.
Yeah. Well, thanks again for joining us here at Whiteboard Wednesday. We look forward to the next episode with you guys.
Cool. Thanks for watching.